Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Howdy everyone. The European Super League was initially brought up in 2018 as a joke. Or at least, that's how everyone saw it. People who saw it didn't believe it would be actually considered, and people who believed it would be considered didn't believe it would actually happen. And up until recently, the clubs in charge would firmly deny their involvement in said league, up until what they perceived to be the right time to pounce. But the premise for it was 15 founding European clubs, 12 of whom are shown on screen, the other 3 as yet unconfirmed, and 5 other clubs, based on how cool they were or something, would be entered in a Super League separate from the Champions League, which would be played midweek. The league's selling point would be the prospect of seeing large clubs with wide fan bases facing off against one another week in, week out, one that would earn these clubs a collective €3.5 billion of income in an investment deal from JP Morgan, the number one investor. Now, as it turns out, of course, it wasn't a joke. Official statements were made as at the 16th of April 2021, where all 12 clubs shown all independently confirmed their intention to involve themselves in the European Super League. And fans throughout Europe were very quick to get on the backs of these 12 clubs. But where arguably the most condensed and total backlash happened is in England, where half of the clubs who confirmed interest are based. And this turned out to be an advertisement disaster, which brought together fans of rival clubs like Tottenham, Arsenal and Chelsea alongside one another, as well as Manchester's City and United with Liverpool, who, despite their rivalries, all came together united against the massive symbol of financial elitism that has been taking over the only truly good British export. And as at the 21st of April 2021, just 5 days later, all 6 English clubs had stepped down from their original statements regarding the ESL, and almost everyone in charge, other than maybe Florentino Perez, has stated that the competition probably won't go ahead. And while this may at first glance seem like a job well done, time to go home or out to the pub and celebrate, the real truth is that the ESL has been more than just a one-time thing where the corporations who sponsor the clubs have slightly overstepped their boundaries just a tiny bit. This European Super League is nothing more than a symptom of a bigger issue, and a representation of how massive companies have slowly been ruining the number one European cultural touchstone of the past century and a half underneath our noses. And it's important to acknowledge here the cultural impact of the beautiful game, and how even though football culture can be this tribalistic fanbase of young hooligans who don't know what to do with decades of pent-up toxic masculinity sometimes, it can also be a fantastic and wonderful hub of community acceptance and ways that those same people can find friendship and camaraderie at the pub, people to talk to and connect with regardless of who else is around. And there's still problems within the sports fan base which need to be addressed at some point, but that still doesn't take away all that much from how well and how effectively this sport can truly encourage, empower, and mobilize the nation. Before I continue, it's important to mention that even though it may not seem like it, pretty much nothing is truly apolitical. They're just political in ways you might not have thought of before. And I don't want to use this video to push any of my political views. I have many other videos on my channel that do that. This is just a safe space away from that. But I do think it's important to make it clear that my perceptions on this are affected by my political biases, and so will yours too. But regardless of which takeaway you got from this whole ESL mess, there's a lot of interesting narratives that can be drawn from this situation that are more than just 12 corporations want to destroy the integrity of a sport in exchange for a lot of money, everyone is mad about it. And some of these narratives are pretty helpful and almost hopeful. Something that gives me almost some form of optimism for the future is the fact that even though political difference and club allegiance is rife within the UK, it's actually possible for some things to come above that and actually unite the vast majority of working class people in the country against common enemies. even if those enemies are massive corporations in control of the things our interests seem to be laying at the feet of. This is a story that a lot of people really resonate with, because even if we feel individually useless, or like we can't change very much in the world, thanks to the crushing weight of society, there are common needs, goals, and interests that unite us all, and it's possible for all of us to unite and stand together in the wake of people who are threatening those interests. And that gives me at least a little bit of hope, that the people are at least able to incite change. The fact that if people really don't like something, we can actually raise our voice, and that that's something worth doing. At least for the time being, while it's still legal for us to do so in this country, but I digress. But it also seems to me like, if the people in this country were as motivated to raise their voice at the government as they are at football clubs, we could move mountains. If the people in this country were actually able to coordinate in the same way that people have done with this ESL thing, but instead focus our energy and effort into political activism and societal change, we could create real friction and advocate for things like workers' rights, ways to actually battle climate change, as well as using taxpayer money to actually fund social systems designed to help people. Okay. Either way, the main thing that this has shown me is that there's much more than just the integrity of sports at stake. This is about the working class people in this country and in this continent, and their ability to stand with one another against people who are trying to turn our lifeblood into something they can take advantage of and exploit for profit. Really? You let me keep that one in there? Anyway, and when the right pressure is put on the right places, the people in this country can start a movement that could change the world.